This is No Soundbites Allowed. I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. Hopefully we're good. Nothing is working right today. Okay. So hopefully that's going to... Oops, there we go. Can everyone hear me? I can hear my sound, but I can't tell if everyone can hear my sound. Very excited for the show. Hey, I'm excited as well. Hopefully it's going to work well. If everyone hasn't noticed, everything has gone wrong in the last week and a half now. Our computer system is completely trashed. Okay, you can't hear me. Thank you for letting me know that. Our sound system was down until about 10 minutes ago. We are not able to broadcast on Rumble at the moment, not live. We're not able to go onto Twitter or anything else. We've had a lot of problems since last week. It has been a week that has been very, very difficult. And I do want to thank John R. and I see Graham. You guys are responding. Thank you for letting me see you comment. I can't type back at this moment. I'm stuck with one screen. These are some of the trials and tribulations we go through when we're trying to provide you with as much information as possible. And it doesn't make money. You know, we're not News Corp. We're not CNN or MSNBC. Just one man trying to help you for the last 17, 18 years now, almost 2 decades. And so we go through a lot of troubles. And that means our computer systems go down and we try and troubleshoot that. We can't afford to restream this, to simulcast this onto multiple platforms all the time. We just don't have the money. And, you know, what happened last week? Let me explain what happened last week. Last week, I woke up to the news that my ability to simulcast the program on multiple channels, gone, ran out of money. Okay, that's one problem. Then I get a call. Many people may be aware. I had to leave the studios in the southern tier of New York. We're losing our house. We got a reprieve from the court to be able to sell the house. And we're trying to do that. That hasn't happened yet. But what we did find out is a drug addict, a heroin addict, did break into the house somehow, has infested the house with drugs, food, vandalism, weapons, and so now I can't sell the house. So the money that I was hoping to get from that, I can't get from that. That's no longer available. So the money I was hoping to get is gone. And, well, that just adds to all the other problems. And then we had one of our screens is down. And so that's been a problem and still not up. And our computer's just acting up. So that's why we weren't able to broadcast last week. We couldn't broadcast for most of this week. We're just having every problem you can possibly imagine. And I know you come to the program and have to hear about my problems, to hear about what's going on in the nation. But this is a reflection of what we're seeing across the country. Everything is breaking down. There is more and more chaos going on. It is more difficult to live our lives. As much as we are being told that Bidenomics is doing fantastic for America and the rest of the world, the reality is we're all running through problem after problem. We just have higher costs. We have less things available to us. We can afford less services to take care of the things we need to take care of. It has become more and more difficult. And it's just not ending. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that this week. We're going to talk a little bit about what just happened with the government shutdown, why the United States government was downgraded. Remember that? Our credit rating was downgraded because of this very situation. We're going to talk a little bit about Representative Jamaal Bowman out of New York and what this progressive has done and what kind of penalty he should receive for the crimes that he now admits he committed. We're going to talk about what's happening in several areas of this nation and how it's affecting us all. And I hope that you'll bear with me. I know we're going to be troubleshooting throughout the entire show, but I did not want to go 2 weeks without speaking to you. Hell, the good news, I have lost weight. I am down to the same weight that I had when I was in high school. Just found that out. That's over the last 6 months. Isn't that great news? So there's one of the positives out there. That being said, let's talk about what's happening around the world, how this is affecting the United States. And one of the things I wanted to get to was what's happening in merry old England, the United Kingdom. We always start this program. Actually, let me step back. So excited about being on live with you guys. I wanted to first say, if this is the first time that you're seeing our program, we welcome you. We thank you for being part of our audience. We do long-form political commentary. This is a small one-man business trying to get to all the information that really matters. Not necessarily the headlines that you see from CNN, but what really is affecting your life. And we want to talk with you about it because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in your right to be able to speak about the issues. It's not just an American right. It is a right of everyone around the world, no matter what your government may think, no matter what the internet overlords think about that. And we've been doing that for nearly 2 decades now. And as you can see, John R. and we've been seeing Graham and Grace are speaking with us, and we're happy to see them all speaking. You too can reach us on YouTube and Facebook. Again, we don't have the money to be able to restream onto to the other platforms that we normally are on, like Twitter, or if you want to call it X, or Rumble, but we will repost it there. So that being said, let's go forward. We always like to start the program. We deal with some of the things that are happening internationally because they are a direct reflection of what's happening here in the United States, how we are influencing the world and how the world is influencing us. One doesn't happen without the other because the United States is the biggest economy, we are the biggest military, we're the superpower of the world, and we are the symbol of freedom in the world. And once the United States is gone, there is no country in the world that will replace us. There is no country in the world that reaches even close to the same pinnacle of freedom that we have here in the United States. As much as we are told in our colleges, as much as they are telling our kids in high school and school and elementary school that America's terrible and it's bad and they should hate America, there is no country with as much freedom for the individual, as much opportunity for the individual as in the United States. And when we are gone, God forbid, there is no one to replace us. Everything becomes authoritarian, and we see that throughout the rest of the world. So that being said, what's happening in the rest of the world is important. And I'm going to try and bring up other screens. I don't think that I can. But one of the things I think is very important right now is what's happening in the United Kingdom. Rishi Sunak is now having a problem. See, this is an example of what I mean. In the United Kingdom, we have the Prime Minister who's supposed to be a conservative, Rishi Sunak. And he is now in an argument with one of his fellow conservatives, a minister by the name of Suella Braverman. And I think this is kind of important. I think it's kind of emblematic of the problem we're seeing throughout the world. We're seeing more and more countries like Italy, like Sweden. They're trying to become more and more conservative. But even as they become conservative, they are held and restricted by this progressive ideology that is holding them back. So much so that when in England, when Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of England, is confronted by another conservative, and they say multiculturalism has failed. It has failed in Europe. It has failed in the United Kingdom. It has failed in Canada and everywhere else, including the United States, where it has been tried. It has failed in California. There is no success story that comes out of multiculturalism. All you get is more division of your people, you get more animosity, and you lose your national identity. That is true everywhere in the world. That has been consistently true everywhere in the world. And what do we see now? Well, Rishi Sunak is upset because he's been called out on that. That when his fellow conservatives, a minister named Braverman, when she says multiculturalism has failed, the Prime Minister of England has turned around and he is so terrified of the impact of admitting that the march to more and more progressive socialism, to admit that it has failed is so terrifying to him that he actually said, no, you just don't understand. It's doing fantastic. It's going great. This is what we're going to see here in the United States more and more. We see that in California, in New York State, in Illinois, the three capitals of progressivism throughout the United States, multiculturalism has failed. Our communities have become more and more divided, and animosity has increased exponentially. People are considered categories, not individuals. Children are being programmed in the schools with this multicultural identity, not as Americans, but as some /American. And we are seeing higher crime. We are seeing higher drug use. We are seeing more riots. We are seeing more decay, moral decay in each of these capitals, just like we're seeing in Europe, just like we're seeing in the United Kingdom and in Canada. And we're seeing a more authoritarian government rise up to deal with this multiculturalism that has resulted in more violence, more devastation for the people. This is true over and over again. And again, I'm using the United Kingdom as an example of this, but we see this throughout the world. Everywhere that we have tried multiculturalism, you go to Sweden, you see what's happening there. Do you know what's happening in Sweden now? I'm going to leave links at the end of the show for everything that I'm talking about. Normally I put it on the screen so that you can see it as we're talking about it. I can't do that right now. I have one screen. My computer is down. But I will leave links for everything that I'm talking about in the description after the show so you can see this for yourself. But we know that right now in Sweden, one of the biggest problems they have are gangs that are immigrant gangs. These are illegal aliens or asylum seekers that have been forced to enter into Sweden because of the no borders policy of the EU. Something that we see AOC and the progressives here in the United States want to emulate. They want no borders. This is why they welded open the gates in Arizona to allow illegal aliens to flood into our country. Why we are expecting this month that we're going to get the total for the year, and again, some 2.4, I've heard estimates somewhere between 2.7 and 3.2 million illegal aliens entered the United States in the last year. That would put us at about 7.5 million illegal aliens since the day Joe Biden took office. Literally since February of 2021 to today, October 1st of 2023, we've had about 7.2 million illegal aliens that we know of that have entered the United States. According to Secretary of Homeland Security, that's Alejandro Mayorkas, what we know right now is that there are at least 140 known or suspected terrorists running around in America because of the open door policy, the refugee program of the Biden administration, that are running around America with subpoenas saying, show up in court in 3 years, we might deport you then. In the meantime, Joe Biden has said, those 400,000 Venezuelans that illegally entered into America, that illegally took a 2,000-mile march, punishing, torturing children to march thousands of miles to enter the United States by themselves while being sexually abused, while being drug mules. Yeah, we're going to give 400,000 of them jobs that they legally can't have through an executive order, so that in 3 years' time, we can say, well, now they've integrated into America. They're actually finally paying taxes. We can't get rid of them. Give them a path to citizenship. That's what this has all been about. Now, if anyone disagrees with me, I am perfectly happy to hear the comments that you have to make. This is why we see on YouTube, we've seen Grace and John, and now John Cordisco has joined us. And we're looking forward to hearing your comments as well. If you think we're wrong, please let us know. But this is what multiculturalism gives us. It tells us that we're not Americans. We're just a bunch of people in a government that happens to be capitalist. And we're told that that's an evil thing too. And we're being told that we need more equity. We need more of the government deciding who gets to get what. That they're going to decide for you because you are incapable of doing it for yourself. That's what multiculturalism winds up being. It's not unifying. People aren't coming together and saying, oh, we're Americans. You're not seeing that in England or Sweden or in France or Germany. No, what they get is enclaves of these peoples from different countries, and they're making their own little versions of the country they left. So they left Afghanistan. They made little Afghanistan. It's not part of England. It's not part of the United States. It's just Afghanistan on our country. It's Iraq or Iran or Sudan or Syria in America, in England, in Canada, in any nation that says, oh, we have to have more multiculturalism. We have these communities that are acting as if they are an entirely separate country, not integrating, not trying to be part of America, but being their own peoples in our soil, using our money, our taxes, our benefits to their advantage, but trying to change everything to the way they live. Now you can say that, hello Graham, good to see you as well. And you could say, well, Mike, it's really not that bad. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We can see there's an article that came out. Now, Rishi Sunak, his article came out from The Guardian, and that was released on Thursday, September 28th, where he's saying, no, multiculturalism is fantastic. It has been a boon and a benefit to democracy. Meanwhile, he's trying to deport 60,000 illegal aliens because that multiculturalism isn't helping. And those 60,000 have been isolated because they have a couple of diseases. That's a fact. In Sweden, according to Business Insider on September 30th, yesterday, Sweden is considering to use its army to help battle violent international immigrant gangs. That's a fact. Again, this is from Business Insider on September 30th by Rebecca Roman. That's the journalist who did the article. And we know that these gangs are almost entirely these immigrants. In fact, one of the largest gangs is led by an individual called the Kurdish Fox, a 37-year-old man by the name of Rawa Majid. And this is where we are seeing women and communities being assaulted on a regular basis by these gangs who are living as if they were in their country, in your country. This is a problem. Multiculturalism doesn't work. So Graham says, in a capitalist system, doesn't the government facilitate most resources flowing to those who have the most capital? No. In a capitalist system, the government has actually very little to do with what's going on. Individuals determine where goods and services flow. That's the more capitalist you become, the less government that you need. Government intervention is anti-capitalist. The more government you have, the more socialist you become. That is the reality. We like to describe it other ways. We listen to our progressive media and they like to say, well, no, that's not how it works. Yes, it is. The more government intervention you have, the less capitalist your system is, and the less you have it focused on individuals, and the more you have it focused on government and the political whims of that government, which is where corruption comes from. Well, to be fair, not all corruption comes from that, but that's where a large part of it comes from. So it's a good question, Graham, but that's what we have to understand. Why do we have, in each of these countries that I'm highlighting, what's been the problem? Is it the immigrants? Yes, but what's also the problem? The government. the government has intruded on most of the processes. They have set aside land for these individuals, even at the exclusion of their citizens. They have put up programs paid for by citizens to take care of these immigrants, some of them legal, some of them illegal. They have failed to enforce their laws on these immigrants because multiculturalism says, well, they live by different sets of laws. We can't enforce the laws of this country on them when they have a different system that they are used to. And then you start getting the chaos, because now you have tiers of justice that don't apply the same to everyone. And we can't blame them. We can't even talk about that, because if you say it, well, then you're sexist, you're racist, you're some kind of ist or ism for pointing out that the system has become corrupted and we're not treating everyone the same. Because someone gets to say, but I'm seeking asylum. I am a undocumented worker. We suddenly have to treat them as if they're in an entirely different category than a criminal when they commit a criminal act. And this is one of the problems that we have that has resulted in the higher crime and the moral degradation and the loss of a singular unifying idea. I'm 55 years old, almost 56. When I was growing up, America wasn't perfect. It still isn't. But America was filled with Americans. We were American, not Afro-American, not Irish American, not Arabic American. We were Americans, period. Every single one of us. And we were working together in this system to try and make it better. But over the decades, we have become more and more categorized, more separatist. We are more individualized. We're no longer Americans, we're hyphen Americans, which means we have a priority on something other than being American. And the more that we are emphasizing that, the more multiculturalism we try to put in, saying, well, it's important because they came from somewhere else. Some other place is as important, if not more important, than our home. Think about that. If someone were to tell you, well, your home isn't that important, your neighbor's house, the house 2 miles, 5 miles, 15 miles away from you, that's more important than the place you live in every day, you would say you're out of your mind. My house is important to me. But multiculturalism says, no, your house isn't important to you. It should be no more important than the hotel that's in the next town over. Because multiculturalism. This is how you destroy a people. And when I say a people, I mean a nation. Not because of their gender, their color of skin, their ideology. No. You destroy the foundation, the very foundation that makes them a unit. You destroy their national identity, the thing that unifies them. Because if we're not all Americans, then we're having chaos. We have everyone in the world in this nation. And if you look at the rest of the world, they all hate each other. That is a fact. Look at the Middle East. Look at Africa. Look at Southeast Asia. You look at Europe. Look at any part of the world you want. The peoples in each and every part of the world hate themselves, hate their neighbors, hate everyone else. That is the history of the world. And the only thing that stops America from becoming a hell zone is the fact that we all believe we are Americans. And Americans can be from any other part of the world and still live together without doing the same thing we see happening everywhere else in the world. Except the more multicultural we become, the less American we become, and the more we become like every other place in the world. And that's dangerous. If anyone disagrees with me on that, I'm happy to hear your reason why. But I want you to think about it from those terms, because it's very rarely ever explained in those terms. The reason why there are gangs of asylum seekers, immigrants, whatever you would like to call them, some of them illegal aliens, that are running around Europe, not just Sweden, This is happening in Germany. It's happening in France. It's happening in England. Why do we have these gangs running around committing crimes? Sexual assault, drugs, slavery. You can call it human trafficking if you want. It's slavery. Why do we see that happening? Why do we see that happening in Canada? Because these groups of individuals don't identify with the country they are in. No, they don't value the people in the country they are in the same as they value themselves. They're not unified. They are multicultural. They have their culture and they hate the other cultures they find themselves in. Graham says, I know people in the same family here in America who hate each other. Well, yeah, that happens. I'm not saying that Americans are perfect in that regard. We still have our individual problems. And we always will. That's true of humans everywhere. But we're talking about nations and national identities and the thing that keeps us together. See, if we're not all Americans, then we're just a bunch of people from other parts of the world living next to each other. And we don't like that. Because you have people who believe in Buddhism living next door to people who believe in extreme Islam, that live next door to Jews, that live next door to Christians, that live next door to an atheist. These groups do not naturally just meld together. They don't like each other. They have very different viewpoints. And some of those groups have extreme violent recourse to being around anyone who doesn't agree with them. That's the whole problem with ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the rest of those groups. Their answer to anyone different than them is to try and kill them. You either convert or you die. And I know I'm using Islam as an example, but it's a very real, current day example. We are seeing various coups throughout Africa because of this. We are seeing continuous wars, 1,500 years of wars throughout the Middle East because of this ideology. And we see that in America. And it's not just isolated to the Islamic faith. It's true when you have people from different regions. You have different cultural groups from Africa, from South America, from Europe, that don't like each other. And if they're busy trying to be their culture / American or hyphen American, then they're focused on their cultural division, not the unifying fact that they're all Americans. Multiculturalism is a poison. And I do believe that this helps to break down the nuclear family, the nuclear cohesion. If we are fighting amongst ourselves, neighbor to neighbor, then we're not cohesive as a nation, and therefore everything starts to fall apart. The animosity, the division, the violence gets worse and worse. People try to escape from that violence by using more and more drugs, whether it be alcohol or heroin or whatever else. And they use these things to try and cope with these problems. And again, our society fails. It's a very different way of looking at this because it's not the way that CNN or MSNBC, the mainstream news media, don't want to talk to you about this in this way. They don't want you to look at this. Yes, at the moment, it's a correlation. I can't tell you it's a fact, but it's a correlation we've been seeing for well over 2 decades. It is a correlation we have seen in every major and minor city across the United States and across the world. And the more multicultural we become, the more that we have seen this be the result. So when I listen to Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of England, say he is so afraid of losing his position because he's not affirming multiculturalism, that just tells me we are in a very bad place in the world and in the United States. Because if England is doing that, then the United States, we will see that throughout the United States. Many politicians will feel that same fear. Because the reason why England is becoming more and more multicultural is in direct proportion to the number of people from United States universities exporting this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is the export of the American ideals of racism and sexism as they are currently defined. That's what's doing the damage. And by the way, it's good to see you, Dow. Graham asked me if I have heard of a quote. Me against my brother and I against our cousins, my brother and our cousins against the neighbors, and all of us against the foreigner. No. It is often used in context of anthropological studies of primitive or tribal societies. Every society is a tribal society. Every society is nations are tribal. There is no difference. That's not primitive. That's consistent. That's humankind. We're a social being. We live in tribes, in communities. Whether you want to call that community a tribe or a nation, it's the same thing. So, and it is, in fact, always your community versus another community for the resources that are available. That's human nature. That's standard. Now, I just want to be very clear. I'm not against people from different parts of the world living in America or anywhere else in the world. I don't care. If you are coming to be part of America, I don't care. Legally immigrate into America. Legally have authorization to be here and be part of the nation as it is. Not to change our nation into what you left, but to be part of what it is and to make that better. There's a big difference. And we're seeing that difference is not subtle. And multiculturalism tells us we should embrace that non-subtlety, that division, rather than taking in the unifying thought of become an American. Yes, you can be a Muslim in America. Yes, you can be a Christian, you can be an atheist, you can be a Buddhist. That's your religious freedom. And you are an American with that religious belief. That's on you, because we're individuals. We're not this unified mob that must believe just one way. Same thing for every other aspect of life. Religion is one easy example of it, but whether it's food or dating or working, it's everything. And so this is why I'm worried about the multiculturalism. When I see an individual who has Rishi Sunak, a prime minister of a nation that is our closest ally, hands down, the United Kingdom is our closest ally, and when this individual who promised that his number one goal was to deal with illegal immigration, the criminals, the illegal aliens that were crushing his nation and are continuing to crush that nation, that island, when I see him turn around and say, but no, the problem isn't the multiculturalism that is making people more and more divided in his nation and raising up the animosity. When I see that happening, I have to be scared that if our best friend in the world is doing that, that either came from us or it's about to affect us in the same way. That's truly a terrifying thought that no one in the world wants to talk about, that no one in the mainstream media wants to talk about this, how multiculturalism hasn't made anything better. Americans are not more unified, nor are they more American by being multicultural. We are more divided, which is fantastic if you believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you believe in DEI, if you believe in critical race theory, then you love the fact that people are becoming more and more multicultural, which means more divided, more secluded, more isolated from each other. You love that because that's what equity does. Equity endlessly and continuously divides individuals. They transform individuals into categories, and then those categories are further subdivided into other categories, and they are then ranked arbitrarily into a hierarchy that this one's more important than others. Oh, you're a man. Well, that's not as important as being a woman. Oh, you're a woman of color. Well, that's more important than just being a woman. Oh, you happen to be gay. Well, that's more important than being a woman of color. Well, you're trans. Well, that's more important than being gay. And so on and so on and so on. Body positive. You happen to be a fat black woman who may or may not be gay. Well, that's a higher priority than all the other groups. It never ends. There's always a new category, a new subdivision, a new dehumanizing way to look at you to separate you from everyone else. That is, at the end of the day, that is multiculturalism. Whether it's admitted or not has nothing to do with the fact that that is what it is and how it affects everyone. Grace says, I'm proud to be an American mutt. So am I. My family can trace we literally can trace our lineage back to 1863 on my mother's side of the family. And I'm proud. Oh, we were slaves before that. Yeah, on my mother's side of the family in South Carolina, we were slaves. Okay. But guess what? I am living in the 21st century, not the 19th. I have the ability to do things that in the 1800s they could never do. In the 1700s, they could never imagine doing. There is, you may say, and we hear all the time, diversity, equity. Well, wait a minute. What can't you do as a person of color, a person from another country, a woman? What can't you do? You can't vote. Yes, you can. Anyone in America who wants to vote, votes. Anyone who is an American citizen, and we are seeing the effort being put in by New York, by California, to try and get illegal aliens, people who aren't even Americans, to give them the right to vote. If you're in America, you can vote. That is not a problem. In Pennsylvania, illegal aliens, when they get a state ID, are automatically registered to vote. It's statewide. You can't tell me you can't vote if you don't want to vote. You can vote easily. And in every single study, everyone who wants to vote does vote. So, again, the arguments we get told by the multiculturalists, by the progressives and the socialists, they're trying to sell us a feeling, but not a reality. We should feel like multiculturalism will make things better. Everyone being something different is a good thing. More diversity. You're going to be more separated from everyone else. You are more of a category. You only deal with people in your category, because that's what they do. They separate you into your categories and tell you you're only supposed to deal with people in that category. Anyone else, well, they're different. They don't understand you. That's the whole thing about Hollywood and why they have to have every single rainbow, every person, every type of human being must be on that screen. Otherwise, you can't relate to them somehow. We've been relating to stories and movies and books since art was created in human history. People have always been able to relate to the story, to the message, to the heroes, the victims, to the stories, whether or not that story is about them, whether it's from Aesop's fables, or we're talking about the Greek tragedies, or we're talking about Star Wars, or even Lord of the Rings. Just because you aren't a dwarf doesn't mean you don't understand what Gimli is going through, or his relationship with Legolas, an elf, a wood elf. Yeah, they became friends because they didn't need to be the same thing to be able to have a friendship, a camaraderie. Hang on. So I got another comment here. Dow says, but come on, man, people can't find the internet to get onto the DM through the post office. Joe Biden, yeah, and this is what the socialists tell us. But you just don't understand. You're just not smart enough. That's why, according to Joe Biden, during his CNN town hall in 2022, he told, black people don't know how to use the internet. Hispanics didn't know how to use the internet. They wouldn't be able to register. We've been doing that for years, and they're watching you, CNN, on. They're watching the town hall on the internet. Everyone has the internet on their phones. Are you kidding me? Joe Biden may not remember how to do that, but then again, Joe Biden's senile. He doesn't know where to sit. He doesn't know how to walk up or down or up and down stairs or across a flat stage. So Joe Biden saying he doesn't know how to use the internet doesn't reflect on anyone else of sound mind and body. What is this? So it looks like Mr. Free Ride 1115. Hello. Thank you for joining us. It looks like that's a new person to the account. Thank you for joining our audience. It says Arizona voter machines broke on election day. Yes, they did. They were down. And the system that they put in place was arbitrary and unsecure. That is a fact. The fact checkers may try and shut down the channel for this, but it is a known fact that their alternative was inferior at the very least and subject to question. Yeah. But this is what you get when you get multiculturalism. You cannot question things because you are being difficult. You're going outside of your group. And by the way, your group may be bad. How often do we hear Joe Biden say, and many of the Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries, talking about MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. MAGA are bad. MAGA are villains. Well, first of all, anyone who's MAGA, you're an American. And Americans, by the First Amendment, have the right to question their government. They have the right to have any political ideology they want to have. Why are you demonizing people because they want to, quote, make America great again? This is why they do not say what MAGA is. This is why they use the acronym instead of the words MAGA. Why? Make America great. Who has a problem with that? We have said this before. You go around the world, everyone who is a citizen of whatever nation, if you live in France, if you live in Spain, if you live in Angola, you want your nation to be the greatest nation it can be. Period. I don't care what country you come from, you want it to be as great as it can be. And so why is it evil for people in America to want America to be as great as it can be? You may have a different idea of what greatness equals. That's a conversation. That's why we have the First Amendment. But why demonize people for trying to make their country better? Oh, build back better. The 3 Bs, that's a good thing. How is that different than make America great? Build back better, make America great. They're the same thing. But the people who go with build back better, they're the good guys. People who are MAGA, make America great, people who want to make America great are bad people. Think about that. Does that make any sense to you? I want to make my nation that you live in with a different culture, with a different ideology, with a different everything. I want it to be great for you and me. And I'm the bad guy? That's a villainous idea? I mean, think about that, folks. That's a villainous idea to say, I want the country to be as good as it can be for you and me because it's not multicultural. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's nationalist. I want us to all live together as Americans in the best country we can have. Not that I want you to live in your little corner of a ghetto and live your individual category. No. I don't want you to live in Little Italy or Little China or Little Afghanistan. I want you to live in America. And I want you to live the life that every American can have and that every American can have a great life. Not isolating you, not shunning you, not saying, oh, you're multicultural, so you can't do what I do. I don't know. Maybe I think that makes sense. And by the way, Graham asks, Was the shutdown of the Arizona, the breakdown of the election machines in Arizona in 2020 or 2022? The answer, Graham, is both. They broke down in 2020 and in 2022, both times. Grace says, and by the way, Grace, thank you for joining us. I don't think I've seen you on the channel before. Thank you for joining us this week. I hear that term from so many leftists. They like to equate it to Trump followers. Well, you know, you're a Trumpist, there's Trumpers. None of these terms make any sense. None of this stuff makes any sense. But it's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be an emotion. It is supposed to evoke an emotion. You're not supposed to think about it. Because if you think about it, it doesn't make sense. Oh, you're just a Trumper. What does that mean? I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a white man. I'm not in my late 70s, early 80s. What is that supposed to mean? I'm an American. Oh, I'm an American conservative Republican that happens to be black and Hispanic. Is that a Trumper? What about white people? What about Indians? What about people from all parts of immigrants who all believe the same things and making America great? Because that's why they left their country. That's why they gave up citizenship in their country. Over 2 million people a year give up their citizenship, their right, their birthright in a foreign country to become American. That's MAGA. They want to make America great because it is better than where they came from. So much so that they gave up their birthright. 2 million a year. There is a line that is 20 years long to do that same thing. And you're telling me that's a bad thing? That's what the leftists want you to believe. That that's a bad thing. That they want to be American because they were already from whatever multicultural part of the world they were in. And it wasn't as good as being American. So literally, the left is telling you to downgrade being American. And this is the same thing that's happening in Britain. And it's happening throughout the European Union. This is happening in Sweden. And this is why there is violence. This is why in England, just like in Sweden, there are gangs of these multicultural groups that are not assimilated, that don't want to be part of the country they've now find themselves in. They want to transform it, and they are being violent in making that transformation. Okay, so, that's why, Grace. Okay. Grace listens with Dal. Dal says, results matter too. Results looking to make America great again were on their way to being more effective. Compare and contrast that with the results you see from Build Back Better. Well, yes, that's the other thing. When you unify and when we focus on a singular national identity, when we are trying to build up America together, well, then we have all of our efforts going into the same things because it benefits everyone. When you're doing Build Back Better, well, I'm working on one group at the disadvantage of everyone else. I'll give you a great example of that. Do you remember the hurricane in Florida? Right after Joe Biden signed the DEI initiative, the executive order emphasizing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the United States government, which meant that FEMA would be focusing on people's skin color rather than their need. And Kamala Harris told everyone that in Florida right after the hurricane and said, hey, by the way, if you have brown skin, you're going to get helped first. Not because you have the greatest need, not because you're in the greatest emergency, but because of the color of your skin. So if there are people who aren't as brown-skinned as you, and their home has been flooded and washed away, all their possessions have been waterlogged and destroyed, they will wait until someone else who maybe had their basement flooded but they still have a house. They still have their possessions. They still have the ability to live and have shelter. We have to replace and fix their basement before we take care of someone else who lost everything because of the color of their skin. That was the example of DEI in effect. That was equity. That is multiculturalism. Again, I submit to you, multiculturalism is not beneficial. Just like Minister Braverman in the United Kingdom. She made it very clear. She was being very honest. And politicians are running away from that because they're afraid of being honest with the public. They're afraid that when the rest of the news media hears that, they're going to go, oh no, but you're not multicultural. You must be a bad guy. Just like saying, oh, you must be MAGA. You must be bad. No, that doesn't mean you're bad. It means I don't agree with the political ideology you're putting in front of me, that you're trying to shove down my throat. That hasn't worked. What is the success of multiculturalism besides dividing more and more people and putting the government more and more in power, giving the government more power over more groups of people, becoming more and more authoritarian? What other benefit has it provided to us? Well, and I can point to any part of the world, and you will see it does not benefit anyone. Okay. So that's a little bit of what's happening overseas. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Again, the link about that will be in the description because I do not have the ability to use a second screen today. I apologize for that. But I also want to point out that according to it's the South China Morning Pledge newspaper, China and Germany are pledging closer economic cooperation and smoother supply chains. This was reported 7:30 this morning, October 1st. And this is international news, that Germany is now going to be working with China more for their economics. I want you to think about that for a second, because you may have forgotten, as we discussed on this channel, it was just in August. It was It was April. April 9th, President Macron of France told all of Europe that they need to stop helping America, that they need to stop following America, that they have to stop being focused on America and focus on China instead, that they should abandon America to take side with China instead, a socialist dictatorship, a socialist nation that kills people for having the wrong ideology. France wants everyone to back China, a nation that says if you have the wrong religion, you will disappear. If you have the wrong political ideology, you will disappear. If you speak up and say something that isn't approved by the government, you disappear forever. And France is told all of the European Union on April 9th of 2023, according to Politico, that that's a good thing. That that's what Europe needs to do because it's more multicultural. And what did we see? Well, today, October 1st, Germany is going along with that multicultural idea. They have to stop helping America. They need to be closer economically with China than the United States. They have to do more work with China than the United States. You should be scared about this. This is not good news. This is bad economic news for the United States. It means that the dollar is becoming weaker, which means inflation will go higher. If you're poor, you're going to become more poor because of this. This is part of what France was looking forward to. This is what Canada, with Prime Minister Trudeau, has been trying to push onto North America. They're strengthening China to destroy America. And that means your life is going to be worse. Economically, you're going to be more poor. Now, mind you, poor in America is rich everywhere else. I get that. But relative to American lifestyles, you're going to become more poor. And by the way, considering that America has $189 trillion in debt, when you take into account all the unfunded liabilities, we owe more money, 4 times more money than all the money in the world. I want you to think about that for a second. America today has more debt than 4 times all the money in the world combined. That is a fact. It's not an opinion. It's not a feeling. That is a fact. All the AOCs out there, you may feel like it's not true. You may feel like whatever. I don't care. Your feelings don't matter because factually, empirically, it is true. And the more that the rest of the world is doing business with China, the more that they are focused on China, the less wealth Americans have, the more poor we become, the closer to a third world nation we become, and the less free we become. No one wants to tell you these things because they're not happy fun. You're not going to have a great feeling based on this. But if we keep going down this road and they keep telling you, but don't you feel, the facts will catch up to you. And the facts will destroy you. I think it's important. And we need to remember, this isn't a sudden thing. It's taking time. France said that in April. Everyone laughed. I've heard many Democrats go, well, that's not important. That doesn't matter. Okay, well, now it's October and Germany is jumping on the same bandwagon. How long before the rest of Europe jumps on that bandwagon? Especially since the biggest economy in Europe is Germany. When Germany's throwing their economic weight around and it's going to China, gee, where do you think everyone else goes? Now, someone may say to me, but Mike, why would Germany do that? It doesn't make sense. Sure it does. Who is China working with? Russia. Russia provides the gas and oil that Germany needs. You can tell me about clean energy all day long that you want. It doesn't work. That's just a fact. You may not like that fact. It may not fit with your worldview, but the fact is that unless you're using nuclear, which Germany does not anymore, then you need oil and gas. And Germany doesn't. They get their oil and gas from Russia. And Russia is doing business with China. If you are friendly with China, you have better odds to be able to get oil and gas from Russia. That is just a fact. That is the situation that Joe Biden has created in antagonizing the Russians and this current proxy war that we have going on in the Ukraine. Not because I want the Russians to win. I don't. I want Putin to lose. I love the Russian people. I've been there. I love the Russian people. They're good people. I don't like their government. I don't like Putin. And I would like to see Putin lose. But that doesn't change what is happening surrounding that. We can't be, again, you can have whatever feeling you want. It doesn't take away from what is actually happening. Germany is guaranteeing that they will be able to get oil and gas. To do that, they have to make friends with China, which makes China more powerful and makes the United States weaker, which doesn't help the Ukrainians in their fight against Russia, and it definitely makes Southeast Asia more of a powder keg. Hey, hot chicks. Good to see you. Yes, folks, I do remember things going back in time. And unlike the mainstream news media, I don't think you forget about what happened in the past, especially if you're reminded. The news media wants you to always remember just whatever happened in the last 3 days. They don't want you to think about what happened before, how that connects to what's going on right now. It's always Don't worry about whatever happened in the past. Just trust us. Just believe us. We will rewrite that later. And that's a problem. Dow says, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eastern Bloc expands to include China, Russia, Germany, and Slovakia out of necessity for cheap energy. Well, they're not going to get it because of windmills or solar panels. It doesn't work. In fact, there was a report that came out. I wanted to mention this. Again, this will be in the links in the description after the show. But there was an article. I wish I could show it on screen right now. I got to fix these screens. I got to get new monitors. But where is it? There is an article. Of course, I can't find it now that I'm trying to tell you about it. Hang on a second, folks. No. I have it here, and I don't know where I put it. There is an article describing right now that homeowners, there is a slew, a wave of homeowners that are buying houses across America with solar panels on them. Solar panels that were installed under the Obama administration, under the green energy initiatives of the Obama administration. And they got these solar panels on their roofs that don't work. They're paying for them. They don't work. They're not effective. Many of them, especially in the more northeastern nations, the northern nations, which get snow and wind and rain and freezing rain and cold weather, they've broken. You've got solar panels and you're paying for those solar panels, and those solar panels don't work. And more Americans are finding that out. So, yeah, when you want to talk about solar and that's going to be the cheap energy, it's not happening. And Germany is just another step in that. So again, this is important to understand what's happening in America. Solar didn't work in Germany. They need oil and gas. They got rid of nuclear, which is the most clean and most effective energy source known to man at this moment. That is a fact. It's not even in dispute. It is an absolute fact. But people don't like nuclear. Fantastic. The answer isn't solar and wind. It doesn't work. Germany is a great example of that. So is France. And that's why they're working together with China so that they can get the oil and gas from Russia, which makes the war in the Ukraine even worse. It means it will go on even longer because one of the biggest supporters that we need is Germany. Germany and Poland are on the front lines of this. And if they aren't working together to help the Ukraine, the Ukrainians will eventually lose. And they are currently losing. That is a fact. It's not an if, it's not a maybe. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. Doesn't mean I'm for Russia. It just is the truth. Ukraine is losing. But, I'm trying to make this clear for people so that you can understand how this is impacting our lives. And when you couple that with the breakdown of our society, of people not being American, they're hyphen Americans, where everything else is a priority before being an American, that makes these things worse. At least I believe so. You may disagree, and that's fine. But let's focus on American politics a little bit. I wanted to remind you what's been going on there. I don't know. But let's talk about what's happening in America. Obviously, we just had the second Republican debate. And shockingly, no one cares. The majority of Americans don't care. The second Republican debate that did not have Donald Trump on the stage gave him a 10-point boost. For the people who watched the second Republican debate, it was such a miserable event. There was such little confidence in anyone on that stage being president that the man not on the stage got a boost in polling of 10 points. Donald Trump went from 53 to 63% approval in the polling for president of the United States, for the nomination. No one cared about that. Who was the winner? Some people will say Nikki Haley, some people say Tim Scott, and some people say Vivek Ramaswamy. It definitely wasn't Chris Christie, and as we can see from polling now, what I have already predicted is happening. No one cares. Chris Christie is not relevant. The Democrats that were his main source of support, 13% of all the support for Chris Christie came from Democrats because they didn't like any Republican. And he helped to disrupt, to take money away and take attention away from the Republicans. But he can't do that anymore. And he's not relevant on any Republican issue. So Chris Christie is now at the same level as Asa Hutchinson. And you'll say, who's that? Exactly my point. They're not relevant. Vivek has moved up in polls again. He's hit double digits since the first poll, since the first Republican debate. He's now at 7%. I think he's going to go higher. But he also proved in the second debate that he's not ready to be president. I don't think he's even ready to be vice president. He doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have the temperament. He needs to learn. And I think that this second debate confirmed what I've been saying about this, that Vivek Ramaswamy needs to be a cabinet position. He needs to be a secretary of labor, a secretary of something in the government, and that would government of commerce, maybe secretary of commerce, something that matches his business acumen, his youth and energy, and gives him experience both on a domestic national level as well as an international level, because he needs it. He doesn't have it, and it shows. And his inexperience is dangerous as we are getting into a time where not only is Russia fighting Ukraine, but we're about to see China fighting in Southeast Asia. And very likely, Iran starting a war in the Middle East. 3 regional simultaneous wars is not the time to have someone who isn't experienced, someone who is not, doesn't have the temperament to be a global leader. You may disagree with me. People may say, Mike, you're wrong. Okay. I don't think anyone's disagreeing with me on Chris Christie anymore. He's gone. Look at the polling. Go to Real Clear Politics. Look at the polls. He's gone. He's useless. He's not relevant. Even the Democrats have realized that he's not going to be their spoiler candidate that they wanted him to be. He's gone. He's going to get out of the race. So is Asa Hutchinson. So is Don Burgum out of North Dakota. They're all gone. They're out of the race. Let's not even talk about them anymore. Mike Pence is falling apart. It's happening slower than I expected, but nobody likes Mike Pence. Republicans are pissed off because he attacked one of his own. Democrats are pissed off because he's a Republican. He has a no-win scenario. Mike Pence is going nowhere, but he's going nowhere slowly. Why? Because he's still attacking Donald Trump, and the news media find value in that. Democrats are supporting that just in case Donald Trump is either put in jail or he dies, because he is old enough, he could die. So they're hoping that maybe if Donald Trump wasn't in the picture, Mike Pence might become important. He won't. Ever. Throw him out. The race right now for vice president is between, I believe, it's between Kari Lake, it's between Nikki Haley, and Tim Scott. That's the real race. As for our Florida Governor DeSantis, Ron DeSantis already imploded. He's already begging donors for more money. He has restructured his campaign, 3 times now? And he still doesn't have a unifying message. He is Trump light. He is not nearly as aggressive as Donald Trump is. And his campaign is floundering. He has been falling from a high of about 17%. He's currently at about 10% in the polls. Again, go to Real Clear Politics. You'll see the polls for yourself. He is not standing out, and I don't think he ever will, at least not until 2028. He made the wrong choice to try and jump in 2024. He has not identified himself as a separate politician rather than just a Trump appointee, essentially. Whether you like him or not has nothing to do with what capabilities he has put on display. And so Ron DeSantis, I again say, is out. And even if Trump were to be put in jail, or if Trump were to die because of his age, no one would turn and say, well, now Ron DeSantis is the man. He would not be the one to win. I think it's, again, Kari Lake, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott. That's your real, and we've been saying this consistently on this program, and I have verified and shown all the reasons why I believe so. In part, Tim Scott, because he has many friends in the Senate. He has many friends in Congress, which is necessary for a vice president to help the president to pass their agenda. They need to have good terms with the Congress. Tim Scott is black. That takes away some of the black vote from Kamala Harris. He's a decent Republican. He's a bit of a moderate, but he's not absolute establishment. He is establishment, but he's not absolute. But again, that gets the moderate vote. He's a good choice. And he's level-headed. He has experience. He can stand up in a fight. He did better in this debate than the first debate. I think he's someone who's definitely vice presidential material. I think Nikki Haley, she stood up. She has a strong voice. She has international experience, which will be vital as we get closer to 2028, which I believe is the time frame. The third quarter, maybe fourth quarter of 2028 is when I believe China will act. That's what all of Southeast Asia is militarizing, and they're betting on 2028 being it as well. So I believe Nikki Haley, that international experience is vital. It is helpful. She's a woman. She's successful. She's a conservative. No one doubts that. She is a bit of establishment, but again, that's a good thing as a vice president, not necessarily the president. She makes friends where we need them to get laws passed properly. And of course, Kari Lake. Why Kari Lake? Because she has been a strong supporter of Donald Trump from day one. She supports many of his ideas because she has said so vocally. She has been an advocate for trying to improve our elections and deal with the inconsistencies that we have seen in 2020 and 2022. She has gone to the courts to fight all the way. She doesn't give up just because someone said stop. She's fighting for a cause that she believes in. She is a woman. She's in the Midwest. These are all positives for her to be vice president. I think Kari Lake is a realistic candidate. She's not on the stage, but she doesn't need to be. Now, yeah, everyone's saying bye, Chris. I'm not surprised. Now, Nikki Pence and Nikki Haley and Mike Pence? No, again, Mike Pence is out. I do not believe Mike Pence cannot win, and if he wins the nomination, Republicans will lose. Guaranteed. If Mike Pence is nominated, Republicans will lose. That is a fact. He is hated by Democrats because of January 6th. He is hated by Republicans because of January 6th. There is no win for Mike Pence. But mind you, that's my point of view looking at the second Republican debate. You may disagree. You may think I'm wrong. I'd like to hear why. What am I misunderstanding about these candidates? None of them have stood up and made themselves a competitor to Trump. They're just not there. That's just not what's on the stage right now. Not that they're bad people. I'm not saying any of them are bad people. But I am saying none of them are elevating themselves. And I truly believe that if we are getting into a more volatile, this is important to understand. The world is becoming more dangerous. The Biden-Harris administration opened up the floodgates for global terror and international war. And we see the result of that right now. We saw that in Afghanistan. We're seeing that throughout the rest of the Middle East, in Syria, with Iran. We're seeing that in Africa with many of the warlords going crazy right now. We see that in Europe, and we see that in Southeast Asia. Roughly 2/3 of the world has increased turmoil under the Biden-Harris administration because they are weak, they are ineffective, and they are inefficient. That is just a fact. You may like them, you may be a Democrat, you may want to be a neutral or a moderate, fantastic. That doesn't change the facts as they exist in the world today. You cannot refute that under the Biden-Harris administration, the world has become more violent. That is a fact. And it is gearing up to become even more violent going forward. That is a fact. In that environment, we need the American cowboy, as the rest of the world likes to call it. We need that crazy American, the guy who has a big stick and isn't afraid to use it. Something that is quintessentially American. And when we have a quintessential strong president, the rest of the world calms down. It gets less violent. There are fewer wars. And we see less of these rogue terrorists running around doing their thing. It gets calmer. Yet another reason why everyone who's on the Republican stage today does not evoke that strong image of an American. And you may say, well, Donald Trump is too much. Donald Trump he's a wild child. He's unpredictable. Maybe, but there's no one else that evokes strength and commitment and a dedication to America. Not hyphen America, not multicultural America, America. The bedrock, the Constitution, the foundation of what we have right now. And today, there are many on the left that will say, oh my God, that's so racist, so sexist, so phobic, whatever. Fantastic. Go move to Cuba. But that's what America is. And in America, being strong, in being unified, in being a democracy and capitalist, we are, because of all of those things, the symbol of freedom in the world. Period. And no one is even close. So, yeah, Trump may do crazy Ivans. Yeah, hot chicks. Could be that. By the way, folks, I can't tell how many people are watching the show today. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if I've been cut off by YouTube or Twitter or any of the others. Please let me know. Now, again, and every time you see me turn like this, that means I'm actually looking at the comments. I can't see them when I'm looking directly into the camera. So please bear with me on that. But I am looking for your comments. So please do let me know if you disagree, if you think I'm wrong. Oh my God. Hang on. I might have. Hang on a second, folks. I might just be able to. Oh, I hope this works. I may have been, my computer may have fixed itself, or at least partially fixed itself. Bear with me. Oh ho! Maybe. There we go. I think. Yes. My screen here was dead. My second screen has been dead for, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days, and just now popped up. So I'm going to use it. So just to review real quick on some of the previous articles that I had. We were talking about Rishi Sunak. This is the article from The Guardian, talking about Sweden and the gangs, the The gangs roving through Sweden. This is the Business Insider article talking about China and Germany. Here's the article there. Again, I will have links for all of this for you. This is the reminder of what Macron in France was saying. This was back in April. And now we want to talk about what's happening in New York, what's happening with Congress, talking about the shutdown. And, I know, I wanted to tell you about, and I said the polling, and while I have the screen up, let me use it while I can. Here is the 2024 presidential nomination. Again, here you can see in the latest polling, Donald Trump jumped up roughly 10 points from 53 to 62, 63. So these are the results that you can see. See it for yourself. So, I mean, if my screen comes back, I'm going to use it for as long as I can to be able to speak with you. So hopefully it will hold out long enough. Hopefully. But again, I can't see what everyone else is saying right now. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, obviously, the government shutdown was a big deal. Everyone was worried about the government shutdown. Well, let me correct that. Everyone except the Ukraine were worried about the potential of the shutdown. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Of course, I can't find anything that I was looking for. All right, fine. Well, if the government had shut down, it is an absolute fact that the Ukraine would have continued to be funded, even though many of the other departments of the government would shut down. People wouldn't be able to go to work. They would have to go to unemployment or wait until after the shutdown to get their money back. We would have seen, depending on how long it went forward, if it went over a week, we would start to see it affect things like parks. We would have seen it start to affect checks, Social Security checks, would be maybe a month down the line, maybe two. It would eventually start affecting Americans. But at no point in the government shutdown would Ukraine not get money, which tells you that our priorities are screwed up. That this shutdown, there's something wrong going on. That there would be Americans affected by a shutdown to some degree immediately and definitely more so as time went on, but at no point would the funding for the Ukraine war that America is not part of, that's not our war, our funding would not stop. Over $44 billion would not end, even though the government would be completely shut down. That seems insane to me. That seems insane to me. That our priority, as things would shut down, after department after department, program after program, that was there to help Americans, as they get shut down, the one thing that we wouldn't shut down is funding of a foreign war. That means literally the United States government right now values the war in the Ukraine over the American people. I know, no one else in the news media will say this. There is no other political pundit out there that is willing to say the obvious truth that is revealed by the government shutdown. To know that as a fact, your government will guarantee and continue to pay for a war of a foreign country on a foreign land that does not deal with America above even feeding American people, taking care of the American people, that's secondary to funding a foreign war that doesn't involve America. That should say something to you folks. That should tell you where the priorities are and tell you where the Biden-Harris administration has led us. This is multiculturalism. Again, yet another aspect of multiculturalism. Don't worry about Americans, worry about everyone else. Don't focus on America, focus on everyone else. Build back better in other countries before you build back better in America. That is the priorities that they have put forth in front of us. And it is undeniable because it is as simple as saying, and this has been fact checked by everyone, it is a fact that we would continue to still fund the war in the Ukraine as our government is shut down, as more and more Americans would lose all their benefits, all their support from the American government. How do you feel knowing that you, under the Biden-Harris administration, are second place? You're second best. You're maybe not even second best. This is the empathy. Remember, we were told Joe Biden is our grandpa. He's the grandpa of America. He's not my grandpa. My grandpa, none of them, neither of them. I had two, my dad and my mom. So my two grandfathers, neither of them were senile. Neither of them were as screwed up as Joe Biden. And thank goodness, neither of them were pedophiles. Did I just call Joe Biden a pedophile? No. But if you want to make that conclusion, that's on you. So, we know that the priority in the current Congress, in the American government, under the Biden-Harris administration, is Ukraine. They are more important than you. Because given enough time in a shutdown, roughly about 3 weeks to a month, even Social Security, even SNAP and food benefits would be cut. Not immediately, but in about 30 days, they would be cut. But the funding for Ukraine would not. So you are, by definition, not as important. The American people, by definition, are not as important as that war. So much for the empathy from the Democrats. So much for the empathy from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's well hidden by the news media. They don't want you to realize that conclusion, but that conclusion is inevitable and undeniable. Otherwise, there would be other priorities. That being said, we didn't have a shutdown. Now, first of all, they're making so much, oh my God, it's going to be a government shutdown. The world's going to end. If you're listening to the mainstream news media, you're listening to MSNBC, CNN, ABC News. Oh my God, the world's going to end. The Republicans are going to shut down the government and no one will be safe. No, I'm sorry. Chicken Little, stop trying to claim that the sky's going to fall. In fact, the first week of a government shutdown, you wouldn't even know the difference. Other than more people not going to work because the United States government is the biggest employer in the nation, the first week, less people will be going to work. But that would be about the only thing you would notice. It really wouldn't stop anything else. Only after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right around 3 weeks is when the average American would start to notice that the government was shut down. Besides the fact that the United States debt clock would slow down. Wouldn't stop because interest, we still would have increasing debt, but it would be one of the only reasons why our national debt would slow down on its march towards $35 trillion by January 2025. That being said, so you wouldn't notice the difference. So when everyone was screaming about it, why wasn't I talking about the national debt? Not important. The first week, not important. 9 out of 10 times, you're going to see both sides. The first week, they're going to blame each other. They're going to scream and shout. They're going to say everything evil that's about to happen to everyone. Everyone's Social Security is going to lose their money. Everyone's SNAP. No one's going to get food stamps. It's all going to end, and you're going to die miserably because the other guys are bad guys, and they won't agree. And within a week, they normally agree. Do they agree on a budget? No. They agree on a continuing resolution. They kick the can down the road. How many times have we seen that? In my lifetime, I don't know, half a dozen times that we've seen them shut down the government, kick the can down the road, and just say, oh, well, we'll just temporarily fund the government forever. So why talk about this? This isn't new. This isn't stunning. The problem is both sides It's not something that we haven't lived through before. So unless you happen to be, I don't know, born in the last 10 years, you shouldn't be scared about this. We've been through this. The fear-mongering is just that, fear-mongering, because we've lived through well over half a dozen of these government shutdowns within the last 10 years. So you shouldn't be worried about this. It's not a big deal in the first week, the first month. After that, then it starts getting very serious. So I didn't care. And I was very sure that within the first week, there would be an agreement and we would kick the can down the road. And they did. Last night, September 30th, they kicked the can down the road. We have 45 days to make a new agreement to then extend the temporary funding of the United States government, and they'll keep doing that until the next election. Doesn't matter. This is useless. It helps no one. This, of course, is exactly the reason why the United States was downgraded. If you may remember, where is this? There it is. You may remember that earlier this year, on August 1st of 2023, that the United States was downgraded for the second time in its history. The first time was under Barack Obama, who had a vice president that just happened to be Joe Biden. And the second time that we have been downgraded just so happens to be under Joe Biden, with Kamala Harris as vice president. And why did we get downgraded? Well, very simple. Because of government shutdowns. This is exactly the reason why the United States doesn't have AAA credit rating. And you'll say to me, but Mike, who cares if the United States has a AAA credit rating? Well, you should, because it means everything's more expensive. It's part of the reason why inflation is continuing to go higher. This is why we have smaller portions of food. Everything, the portions of everything is getting smaller. The price is staying the same or going up. Everything is getting more expensive. The poor are becoming more poor. Why? Well, if we have the difference between AAA and AA isn't big, but it means more interest. And if you're poor, you know what happens when your interest rates increase, even a little bit. You can't afford it. It makes things unaffordable. Even if there's a half a point, 1 point, when interest rates go up just half a point to 1 point, you feel it in your pocket. You suddenly can't buy things. You suddenly can't pay for things. You suddenly can't buy enough food. We all know that. That's happened to us over the last 2.5 years. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Well, the United States government is no different. The fact that our credit rating went down means the interest rates went up, and you became more poor. So that's why this is important. Because of this very reason. Because we can't figure out how to get the government funded. Because we keep shutting down the government so consistently that Fitch in August could predict, oh yeah, they're going to do it again this year. That every other year, surrounding an election, they're going to go and shut down the government. It is common now. And that is hurting us because everyone's losing their confidence. Again, earlier we were talking about people losing the confidence in the United States as a strong leader in the world. And now they have less confidence of the United States being a strong economic leader in the world. Do you see that there's this consistent, no one trusts America? Weak leaders lead to weak results, bad results. This is what's happening right now. And this is the problem with the fact that they kicked the can down the road for 45 days. It's going to be 45 days of every Republican and every Democrat blaming the other guy for every problem under the sun and promising every single old person in America, every person who's hungry in America, that the reason why they're hungry, the reason why they might get cold is because of the other guy, vote for us, re-election, Give us your money, re-elect us. That's the reality of what we're looking at. I tell you, it's very upsetting. It's very aggravating that it's so predictable. And this is going to happen to every single president going forward. Every single president, mark my words, every president from now on will get impeached. Every president from now on will go through at least one government shutdown. It is that commonplace. That is where our politics have led us. None of that is going to help you live a better life, but it will make it worse. Won't help you get better, it will make it worse. Guaranteed. All because of politics. Because a small group of people want to get reelected forever. That's what you can expect going forward. Every single president will be impeached at least once, and every single president will go through a government shutdown at least once, and you will pay for it. Economically, politically, in terms of your freedom, you are going to pay for it. Every single time. Mark my word. You may not like it. It may not feel good, but that is a fact. That is what we predict as the empirical fact. I don't care how you feel about it. It's not my truth. It's the truth. But in the process of kicking the can down the road, so that they can blame Republicans and Republicans can blame Democrats, as nothing gets done and the interest rates go higher and higher and you become poor, more and more poor because of this. Well, what happened? Jamaal Bowman, a progressive, unabashedly a progressive, part of the Nationalist Democrats of America. He is a socialist. He's there, right there as part of the squad, along with AOC and Ilhan Omar and Anna Presley, Cori Bush. He's part of the Progressive Caucus, which is Hakeem Jeffries. Jamaal Bowman had the brilliant idea to pull a fire alarm. We are back in high school. That's American politics for you now. We're back in high school. He's pulling the fire alarm. There's so many things about this that's so wrong. First of all, this is high school tactics. This is a kid who wants to get out of school and doesn't have any sense on how to get out and decides, I'll just pull the fire alarm so everyone gets to go outside. It's stupid. It disrupts everyone's life. It is helpful to no one. And at the end of the day, it doesn't accomplish the goal. I mean, Bowman could have, the only other thing that he could have done was on the same level is he would have called in a fake bomb threat. Except everyone would have found out it was his phone and would have nailed him for that too. It's the same level of idiocy. This is something junior high schoolers might do. And they know they were wrong when they did it. This is a big thing. They know they were guilty when they did it. See, initially, yesterday, Jamaal Bowman had nothing to say. Democrats were like, we don't know who did this. It might have been Jamaal Bowman. It might have been someone else. It didn't, just because Jamaal Bowman is a black progressive doesn't mean that he's the one who did it. How do you know that he pulled the fire alarm? Why would you blame him? Why? Because we got a picture of him. We have evidence. There is video of him pulling the fire alarm. That's why they blame Jamaal Bowman. It's not because he's black. It's not because he's a progressive. It's not because he's a bad New York politician. It's because we have evidence he did it. The evidence is right in front of our face. And Hakeem Jeffries, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are all trying to find an excuse to say, well, it's not that big a deal. It's not that important. Don't pay attention to the fact that our Congress is devolving. Let me be clear about that. Our Congress is devolving to the level of junior high school. Not even high school. This is junior high school kind of tactics. Pulling a fire alarm so that you don't have to go and vote on kicking the can about the economy. Instead of passing a temporary fix, 45 days, instead of going to vote where you have to vote yes, because Jamaal Bowman didn't want to vote yes on a Republican bill, but he couldn't afford to say no. He could not in good conscience say, nope, I'm going to let the government shut down. Jamaal Bowman couldn't do that and look at his progressive backers, so he had to vote for it. But he didn't want to. So instead, he pulled a fire alarm. Wow. Wow. That's how low progressives have fallen. That's how petty they have become. By the way, Jamaal Bowman now admits, he has come out and admit. So even if you want to say, but how do you know? How do you know? It's video. It could be any black congressman who happens to be a progressive. Could have been any of them. Jamaal Bowman admits that he did it. And this is what he pulled. I want you to fire alarm, fire alarm, fire alarm, fire. Every single type of fire alarm that could have possibly been there was one that tells you it is about fire. And the answer for Jamaal Bowman is, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. Where is it? Where's his excuse? I want to show you this. No, it's in this article. Oh, here it is. So this is from CNN. CNN, to the rescue. Save the Democrat. Save the Democrat. What is it? It's an accident. He didn't do it on purpose. He didn't know that pulling a fire alarm would disrupt the government. He didn't know what would happen. And as this guy likes to say, from Amiri King, everyone has known what a fire alarm does since you were in preschool. And he has a degree. Jamaal Bowman is supposed to be educated. Sorry for the background noise. Jamaal Bowman is supposed to be educated. Yeah, they're probably sending the police to try and track me down so I can stop talking about Jamaal Bowman, a New York Democrat, a progressive in New York City. You're not supposed to do that, not if you're black. But this is what Jamaal Bowman, who's supposed to be educated, he's supposed to have a degree. And he admits he did it. It was an accident. How could I have possibly known that pulling a fire alarm would cause a fire alarm to go off? No, I was just trying to open a door. We know that he pulled the fire alarm. Why did he do that? Pretty unclear. This is Jamaal Bowman. Yeah, he's a very confused progressive. He's a very confused individual when he doesn't know what a fire alarm does. What is he? In his 30s, his 40s? He doesn't know. He's got degrees. He's part of the intelligentsia that the Democrats love to toss around. He's one of their intelligent individuals, and he doesn't know what a fire alarm does. He doesn't know when you look at a fire alarm and it says fire, that it's not how you open a door. That's not just opening a door. He doesn't know that. Is that what Democrats really think? More importantly, let me say it better. Does Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, Jamaal Bowman, do the progressives in Congress, do they really think the rank and file Democrats are so dumb as to think that this was an accident, that this wasn't done on purpose. That according to AOC, Bowman was just trying to figure out how to get through a door. The door was locked and he wanted to go vote. So he pulled the fire alarm because that would obviously open a door. Seriously? I mean, I know Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not the most brilliant person in politics, in education, on the face of the earth. She's not anyone's idea of a genius. She's just not. You can feel however you want to feel about her. She's not smart. Point blank. Nancy Pelosi is smarter than AOC by magnitudes. And Nancy Pelosi is the woman who says that the only way to find out how something works is to actually pass it. But AOC is trying to convince you. She's going on CNN, of course, to say, no, you just don't understand. It was a natural accident. Oops. Well, here's the thing. It's a crime. Even in New York State, even for a New York progressive politician, it is a crime to pull a fire alarm. Teachers, educated individuals should know this, especially if they're a politician. In New York, it is actually a violation of Section 15214, false alarms. And this comes with a penalty of up to $10,000 and 6 months in jail. For Jamaal, and this is according to Washington Examiner, since he admitted that he did this. So it is not a question of, is he guilty? We don't need an investigation. He already admits he did it. So this is all, the only thing left is he goes in front of a court, because this is a crime. Even in Washington, D.C., this is a crime. And he is going to show up in front of a judge because he is a criminal. He should be arrested because he committed a crime. He needs to be arrested, go to jail. He gets in front of a judge. He admits guilty because he's already told us he's guilty of the crime. And that means that he either pays a fine of $1,000, 6 months in jail, or more importantly, obstructing justice. He goes and gets the same penalty as January 6th. Jamaal Bowman is guilty of exactly the same thing as the people that have been accused in January 6th. Every single Democrat that wants to say that people at January 6th obstructed the government on purpose should be saying the same thing about Jamaal Bowman. He should be stripped as being a congressman, and he should be in jail for the next 2 years before he gets a court date so that he can then get 5 years in jail for obstructing the country, for obstructing justice, just like the January 6th, because he knew he pulled a fire alarm. It said fire on it. He knew there was a vote going on in Congress at the time that he pulled the fire alarm. He knew that. He admitted that. He admitted he did it. We have video evidence. So he is as guilty as anyone from January 6th according to the rules of the left. Which means it wasn't an accident, and even if it was an accident, it doesn't matter. He obstructed justice according to the January 6th trials. Everything that we have seen from Democrats about January 6th, Jamaal Bowman needs to go. He should be in jail right now in solitary confinement. He should be charged, and he should get 5 years minimum, not probation, and he should be stripped of his position as a member of Congress. These are the rules the Democrats created themselves. These are their rules on January 6th. Why won't they hold their own people to that same standard? It's their standard, not my standard. I'm not saying that. That's what they have said. because he did obstruct justice. He did interrupt a vote in Congress on dealing with the shutdown, which is of vital interest to the United States government. Because in shutting down the government, that makes poor people more poor. It stops people from getting government aid. So it is a direct violation of the operation of the United States government. Jamaal Bowman is guilty by his own words. Therefore, he needs to be punished the way that we have seen people being punished. Is there anyone who disagrees with me on this? Is there anyone who thinks that he shouldn't be treated like the people in January 6th, the now 1,800 Americans, many of them, 700 of them, that have been jailed for 2 years? Why should he be treated any better? I have a comment from John, who says, the JRS break did a short about this. Yes, John, you did. Coming out about this morning. I was waiting for the show today to talk about this with Jamaal Bowman. Because I think the most important thing, it isn't that he knew he pulled a fire alarm. It wasn't that he made a mistake, because he didn't. He knows what a fire alarm is. And if he doesn't, then he doesn't deserve his degrees. He got sham degrees. He paid for them in, I don't know, some backwater place. They're all fake. So either he's an idiot and he faked his college degrees, or he has the college degrees, he's not an idiot, and he's just evil. He just decided to obstruct justice. Not just false fire alarm, but he also wanted to obstruct our government, which makes him January 6th. That's insurrection. He needs to be stripped of his position and thrown in jail. I've just made the case for it. Is there any Democrat, Libertarian, Conservative, Moderate, non-aligned person, is there anyone in America who disagrees with this? Besides the politicians. We know Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she has to protect the progressive movement. So she says, no, let's not talk about Jamaal. Let's talk about someone altogether different. She wants to talk about George Santos, a man who was elected and no one did any background on him. That's a different problem. George Santos didn't break the law. He didn't stop government from working. People didn't check him. Okay, that's a different question. That's a different problem. And the answer to George Santos is either a recall or he will be voted out of office in the next election. That's already resolved. That's not dealing with obstruction of justice by Jamaal Bowman, a progressive who's part of the Progressive Caucus with Hakeem Jeffries and AOC and Cori Bush and the rest of them. Someone who wants to get rid of the First Amendment, they want to get rid of the Constitution, and they want to adopt the UN's human rights movement. They want to rewrite our government. They want us to be socialist. They have admitted as much. That's why they're progressive. They're not even Democrats. They're progressives. But they know no one supports, 3% of Democrats support the progressive movement. No matter how loud it seems, no matter how many newspapers and TV shows, TV news want to push them, they actually only have 3% of the Democratic Party. If they were their own party, they would be smaller. Yeah, I believe they would be smaller than the Green Party. Howie Hawkins, we just had a conversation, Howie. If I'm wrong, Howie, please tell me, but I think the Green Party is bigger than the progressive movement by itself. If they were not part of the Democrats, they would never win an election, ever. But they're part of Democrats, which is why they get so much money. And that's why they're so well protected by CNN, saying it's just a mistake. Anyone could have accidentally walked over to a closed door, looked at a fire alarm, and said, well, the fire alarm will open the door. Couldn't be any consequence to that. That could not be bad at all. That wouldn't stop the rest of the government that is currently voting from being able to do their job. I wouldn't be obstructing justice at all. Yeah, okay. So we have some comments here. Let me see what the comments say. Bear with. What does this say? So Grace says, I agree, because the people who are in jail now for January 6th didn't think they were doing anything wrong, as they were being allowed in by police. Yes, hundreds, if not thousands of people were allowed in from, I believe it was the West Wing. The police held open the doors and allowed people to walk in, just ushered them into the Congress building. Thousands of them. Hundreds of those thousands are now in jail and have been convicted of trespassing, mostly. So they thought they did nothing wrong, and yet they've been punished, even though they were allowed in. And Democrats don't make any distinction, no difference there. How is this different with Jamaal Bowman? Because CNN, NBC, NPR, they are actively trying to convince you, nope, it's not the same thing. AOC is desperate to make sure you don't remember what Democrats said about the people of January 6th. They are desperate to make sure they rewrite history so you don't remember that Jamaal Bowman has done exactly what they accused others of, and they don't want him held responsible to the same level. Why? Because he's a progressive. Because he's one of theirs and he's elected. Really insulting. This is a crime, and he should be tried with the crime, and he should be tried with obstruction of justice, disrupting the government. That's an insurrection, and he should be in jail for 5 years, just like we have seen happen to Enrique Tarrio. I don't see any difference. Enrique Tarrio wasn't even in Washington, D.C. He never promoted violence, ever. He didn't tell anyone to invade into Congress or to disrupt Congress. Not one. There is zero proof of him doing that. And he got 5 years, 22 years. Jamaal Bowman knew what he was doing. He should be getting at least 5 years. But the Democrats are going to tell you, no, it's not the same thing. Because it was an accident. No, it wasn't. No. How stupid do they think you are? I mean, I am truly amazed and bewildered that any news agency can look at you with a straight face and report he thought it was an accident. That he says it was an accident. How can they say that with a straight face? How can they look at you and try and treat you like an adult? I mean, if you were 5, maybe. Yeah, a 5-year-old will pull the alarm. They're a child, of course. But if you're over the age of 10, you know what you're doing. And we're supposed to say, well, no, that was an accident. Could not have possibly figured out how this would impact him or any member of Congress or the votes going on at the time. And he did this because of feelings. Because that's what motivates the progressives. That's what motivates the progressive caucus. Feelings. That's all they're about. He felt like he needed to stop the Republicans. He felt like it was far too MAGA to continue to allow the government to run, to operate. Funding the government for an extra 45 days, well, that's MAGA. And he didn't want to be MAGA. He felt that this was the answer to that horrible MAGA thing of keeping people fed, keeping the bills paid. And no one in the news media wants to be honest with you. The mainstream news media do not want you to think about it. They do not want you to consider this. If there is anyone who's a leftist, a progressive, a Democrat, moderate Democrat. Please, if you think I'm wrong, tell me why. Please explain to me how Jamaal Bowman misunderstood this. How he didn't understand what he was doing. And that this is somehow an accident. It's not the same thing as January 6th. Please explain to me. Because it is. You know it is. I know it is. AOC knows it is. Everyone knows what this is. We all know it. It's just Democrats don't want to be held accountable. They want to be treated different. They want to be treated better. The Democrats in elected office are a different class of people, so they get to be treated different for doing the same thing you and I did. You and I may have gone in and got January 6th. Bowman, he gets treated entirely different. It's an accident. Let it go. It's like listening to them talk about illegal immigration. There's no such thing as illegal immigration. It's all wide open. The border, there is no border. Just walk on in. Oh, wait a minute. You're overrunning New York City. Oh, wait a minute. You went to Martha's Vineyard. You can't do that. Get out. Send them somewhere else. It's someone else's problem. The rules are different. Yes, yes. America's wide open as long as you're not where the Democrats live. So as long as you're not where they live, then absolutely. As long as someone else is paying for it and they don't have to see it, it's okay. See, the rules change a little bit. Once it starts to affect them and their power, then the rules change. The system needs a little tweaking there because they're not the same. At least in their mind, they're not. I think it's insulting. Oh, man. Again, I am open to hear from anyone who thinks I'm wrong. I'm looking forward to seeing the comment. I know we can't call in right now. The phone lines are down. Again, I'm poor. I'm doing the best I can, folks. But I would love, please type in. Tell me, Mike, how did I get it wrong? How am I misunderstanding this? How am I being unjust? Because I can hear it right now. They're going to tell you, if you showed this clip, and you showed it to a progressive, they will tell you, well, Mike's obviously, he's got to be a racist. Because I'm black, and Jamaal Bowman is black. So that means it must be racist. Because only a racist would hold him to the same standard that Democrats have already established. Oh, well, that's racism. Okay. What else will they say? They might tell you that I'm sexist. I don't know why. We're both men. Jamaal Bowman and I'm a man. Well, I don't know what Jamaal Bowman is. He could be a them, they, it, whatever. I don't care. He could be whatever. I'm a man. Assuming that he's a man, which would be a normal presumption all the way up until last year, then why am I a sexist? I don't know. Okay. But they will pull out every ist, every phobe, every ism that they can think of and try and attach it to anyone that says Jamaal Bowman should be treated like any other American. If you want him to be treated like every other American, including you, if you do that, then you are guilty. You must be MAGA. MAGA must be bad because you want him to be treated like every other American because a member of Congress is just another American. They aren't special. And I can tell you, from my personal experience, I've known many members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans. I have a couple of their phone numbers, in fact. They're just people. I knew them before they got elected. I knew them while they were elected. I've known them after some of them have been elected. They're just people. They're not smarter. They're not better. They're not more altruistic or less greedy. They're not anything different than anyone else walking down the street right now. Just because they have representative or senator member of Congress. Does not make them better. And if you think I'm wrong, listen to Nancy Pelosi. What's the biggest stimulus? Unemployment. Unemployment checks are a stimulus for the economy. That's Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, they're just as dumb. Members of Congress are just as dumb as anyone else. And they're just as evil, and they have just as many negatives that they do. Just like Jamaal Bowman. So why is there such a push in the news media right now to say, well, you must be a evil MAGA to want Jamaal Bowman to be treated like any other American, to follow the rules that the Democrats have established and hold him accountable to those same rules, just like Ray Epps. It's amazing to me, folks. It's amazing to me. And you're going to hear Monday, they're going to try and kill this story on Monday. They've already gone into recovery mode. They're already trying to cover up the story right now. Happened on Saturday. They're trying to kill the story on Sunday. They're going out on the circuit. They're trying to dumb this down and say, no, it was just an accident. Oh, who could have known? Ha, ha, ha. It was just an accident. Those Republicans, those MAGA Republicans, how dare they say that this was on purpose? They're just trying to deceive you. Disinformation. Stop paying attention to it so that they can kill this story Monday. But quite honestly, this is all smoke and mirrors. They think you're too dumb to pay attention. They think you'll forget. In the space of this weekend, they think you're going to forget the details. When they say, Republicans, MAGA, you're just going to go, oh, evil, must be evil, istphobe, and do whatever they say after that. I hope to hell you're smarter than that, folks. I think my audience is. I hope the people who are watching this for the first time, I hope that the people who get to see these clips, I hope they figure it out, because I don't know that they will. Maybe I think I've covered that about as much as I can. I don't think there's more to that story than what it obviously is. Obfuscation and interruption of government practices. Jamaal Bowman has committed insurrection. He needs to be stripped of his position. He needs to go to jail. Period. It wasn't an accident. And even if it was, that doesn't stop it from being a crime. And he admitted it. So, hey, Bellin, thank you for joining us today. Bellin says, give me a second. He should be treated worse. Well, there is a large number of people who would say, since you're an elected official, you should be held at a higher standard in terms of not that you get more benefits, but that you get more punishment. That you're supposed to act better than the average person because you have more power. You've been elevated, and therefore when you screw up, you need to be punished more as an example to the next person. Bellin, I understand that. I'm not even going to ask for that. He should be. He wants to be. Jamaal Bowman has been running around. I'm an example of black supremacy. He's an example of being a socialist. He's the thing that people should be following and emulating. He's been using that shtick and that race card to get him all the way into Congress. Fantastic. He should be punished because of that same shtick too. But I'm not even going to ask for that. I'm just asking for him to be treated just like everyone else according to the rules that Democrats created themselves. And when he doesn't, I want you to understand how biased they have made this system. It's not because I'm evil MAGA. It's because Democrats broke the system. And you aren't part of the winning side. am at least honest enough to tell you, which of course makes me an enemy of the state, or at least an enemy of the Democrats, the progressive ideology. Mind you, this is not the only thing. This week was filled with other news, by the way. Did you, I do get a newsletter from Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, who is a personal friend, and she used to be my congresswoman back when the New York 22, before New York State tried to gerrymander the districts. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney was my congresswoman. So, of course, I get mail from her to tell me what's going on in my district. So, Congresswoman sends out a newsletter telling us what's going on in our country. And did you know that we now have evidence that is coming from 2020 of the IRS trying to hide Joe Biden, trying to hide the financial transactions of Joe Biden and his family? There's actual emails. There is evidence. And yet, mainstream news media doesn't want to talk about it. Members of Congress are trying to get this word out. They're sending it out. But the mainstream news media, no, it's not really that serious. No, don't even think about it. Again, they're telling you, don't worry, forget. Just forget. Just let it go. It's okay. But it's not okay. Because it's negatively impacting your life. It is affecting you. And if we are to hold people to the very same standard that these Democrats have declared to use against us, well, they wouldn't be in the positions they are today. And I think it's worth mentioning. And I know I mentioned earlier Arizona. I was talking a little bit about that. And again, it's an example of the difference in the way Democrats want you to treat them and the way everyone else gets treated. How it's entirely different. If there are two stories. There's a story out about Ron DeSantis disappearing over Christmas. There's a story about Arizona's governor, Katie Hobbs, disappearing for a day and a half. Now, if you went to on Wednesday night, Katie Hobbs disappeared. That is a fact. No one in the news media knew where Katie Hobbs was Wednesday night, Thursday morning. That is a fact. The local news stations in Arizona didn't know where Katie Hobbs was. The national news media didn't know where Katie Hobbs was. All we knew is that she had gone and she had given notice and said, yep, Kimberly Yee, the treasurer, the number 3 person in line for the governorship of Arizona, she was now acting governor. She got the power. Why? What happened? We don't know. There was no announcement. The press didn't know. All we knew is Katie Hobbs disappeared. The Secretary of State, which in most states would be called Lieutenant Governor, disappeared. They were gone. Poof. Just gone. And the treasurer suddenly is the new boss. Temporarily, we were told. But it's temporary. When they come back from wherever in the world they went to, then they'll be back in charge. So the news media got real indignant about this. We've seen Democrats have been really upset about this. Well, this was completely normal. Katie, if you went to TikTok, people were saying, well, she was going and she got she was having a medical procedure. No, didn't happen. Not true. She wasn't getting a medical procedure. People were making up stories about where Katie Hobbs went and why she was no longer in charge. See, the actual truth of it is, Katie Hobbs went to Washington, D.C. So did the Secretary of State of Arizona, went to D.C. to have meetings with Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, DHS. And according to Arizona law, when the governor leaves the state, the next person in line takes over until the governor comes back. There always must be someone in Arizona that is acting as the governor. That's their state law. Okay, it's pretty simple. Which doesn't answer the question, where did Kate Hobbs go? Because no one knew. See, I'm in the news media. I know that if you're on the news media, you will get the itinerary of the political figures. You know, you're following the governor, you're following a member of Congress. They will send out, oh, here's the schedule. This elected official is going to be at XYZ on this day. And they're going to be there from this time till this time, so that you, member of press, can show up with your cameras and all your equipment and your reporters, and you can show the public this is the candidate doing whatever they're doing. They have schedules. They have itineraries, which the mainstream news media did not have for Katie Hobbs. She just disappeared. No one told them where she was. Her Twitter didn't tell anyone where she was. Her staff didn't tell anyone where she was. Now me, hang on. I think those are fans of Katie Hobbs in bikes trying to find me. So I have great difficulty believing Katie Hobbs was in a bunch of secret meetings in Washington, D.C. that no one knew about and only came up after the fact. We didn't find out until Friday where she was. She just disappeared. And then they come up with this answer after the fact and said, well, of course, she was in D.C. Didn't you know? No, I didn't know because you didn't tell anyone. You kept it in the dark. You didn't have, at any point, for over 24 hours, you could have just come out and told people where she was, what she was doing. Show a picture of her. Have her do a tweet. Nope, they didn't do any of that. Why? Because, I don't know. It sounds like something else was happening. That something else was going on. That you weren't supposed to know she was out of the state making a deal. I don't know what the deal was about. But it seems to deal with immigration. Because the Secretary of State, we know, was talking to Alejandro Mayorkas, the guy in charge of DHS, in charge of immigration. So it sounds like they were making an immigration deal. That they were trying to cover up the fact that the gates in Arizona on the wall were welded open and thousands of illegal aliens flooded the state. Sounds like they were making a deal. They were hiding things from you. That they were lying to you. And they just didn't, and they got caught. They didn't want you to know, and they got caught. And to distract you from, hey, why were you talking with the immigration czars? Why were you talking to the guy in charge of immigration, Arizona, the state that welded the gates open? Why were you talking to them about immigration just as we're about to release the 2023 immigration numbers? The illegal aliens, how many criminals entered the United States under the Biden-Harris administration for 2023? Maybe it's me. Maybe it's just me. But I think that's what's important here. They're trying to hide this. And it's a conspiracy, and they didn't want you to know, because we're going to see Alejandro Mayorkas say something about Arizona and about illegal immigration, and they needed to make sure that Katie Hobbs was going to say exactly the right thing, that she would parrot exactly what the party line is so that they would be in lockstep. And they wanted to make sure she does it, and they called her to Washington, D.C. to make sure she does. I could be wrong, but that's what it sounds like. That's why she disappeared. That's why no one knew where she was. That's why we didn't know who she was having meetings with. Because you weren't supposed to know. But we're the bad guys for that. I mean, I was the bad guy for putting this up. For doing a short video saying, hey, maybe she and Calvin and Hobbs, the cartoon from the newspapers, that Calvin came and got her and stole her away. I was the bad guy for saying that. But, mind you, it's the same news media. It's the same politicians that were upset that we dared to ask where Katie Hobbs was, are the same ones that are making up a story about Ron DeSantis meeting up with a reporter, shacking up with a reporter, to be honest, over Christmas in 2022. By the way, this is a story that's been debunked. This has been debunked. But we are seeing that this is being spread. This message keeps coming out. And they keep trying to push out this message saying, no. He disappeared. So it must have been him cheating on his wife. This must have been him with this reporter, except the reporter says, show the photos. Show the proof. Because this is slander. This is libel. This is defamation. It's untrue. But you're supposed to talk about this. You're supposed to believe that this is the truth. But when it comes to Katie Hobbs, oh, no, it's okay. The fact that no one knew where she was, that's okay. Don't ask any questions. Don't think about it. It couldn't be her cheating. It couldn't be her doing something underhanded, evil, dangerous. No. It's normal, everyday business because this is a Democrat. But a Republican that has done nothing wrong, well, no, that must be cheating. Must be some kind of evil thing going on there. Folks, they think you're idiots. They truly think you are an idiot and that you need to be treated worse. 5-year-olds get treated better than this. Really. They really are. I don't know. It just drives me nuts. It really does. And I was frustrated all week. I mean, you may have seen me earlier this week on Wednesday at noon. I do a show. We just started a new program. This is the second episode where it's me and Larry Sharp and Charla Burnett. We get together. Larry's the libertarian, Charla's the progressive, and I'm the conservative. And we talk about some of the issues that are affecting America. And in fact, we were talking about immigration. And what did I think I have this queued up here for you guys. Let's see.
And it does kind of apply to what you're speaking about now. So we have this, the problem is that we have no focal point. We don't have an Ellis Island to draw everyone into. And so that's been making this much more difficult. And we are already seeing that people are being dispersed across the nation from those focal points, except nobody wants them. We've seen that with the Biden administration shipping children in the middle of the night into Tennessee, into New York, across this nation, because they have overwhelmed the system. And now we see that the mayor of New York is trying to convince Kathy Hochul and all the other 60 counties or 50 counties in New York State to accept the illegal alien overburden. And the states have declared emergencies and have gone to court to prevent this from happening. You can only have an asylum system. The only way we can have this, and AOC is correct, we need a plan. We need a focal point. We need a focal point for everyone to come in, to be recognized, documented, and addressed, and then we can disperse them properly. Without doing all of these steps, we're getting what we have right now. several states saying they're sanctuary states, which is illegal. That
Okay. And so that's just a small portion. I think you were able to hear that, folks. What we do on Wednesdays at noon, we spend our lunch talking with you. From the conservative view, being held by myself, Larry Sharp being the libertarian view, and Charlotte Burnett being the progressive view. Talking about many of the topical issues. And luckily, I only need one screen for that, one camera. And so I was able to do that this Wednesday, even though Sunday I wasn't able to be on, as our systems were failing and intermittently coming back on and not on. So I do the best I can. Let me see here. Oh, and I did find it, by the way. In case you were wondering, I said earlier that if the government shuts down, we're still going to pay for the Ukraine. Even though you are second class, you don't, they'll take away money from you, but they won't take it away from the Ukraine. Well, this is PolitiFact. And the answer is yes. Now, will they immediately cut off food stamps, SNAP, Social Security? No. But they will over time. The longer that a shutdown goes, the more they will take away from you, but they will never stop paying for the war in the Ukraine. So the priority in the Biden-Harris administration, even fact-checked, is you are not part of the priorities. You are not the most important thing to the Biden-Harris administration or to Democrats. You're not even close. They want to protect themselves, and they want to protect the Ukraine. And you are, hell, you're not even third, because then they want to take care of the illegal aliens. You're somewhere way down the list. You're not that important. Equity. Your category doesn't count. Your category isn't high enough on the list. That's equity for you. Dow says reopening Ellis Island might be iconic and a good idea. Yeah, it could be. We need something like that. I thought it was a good conversation on Wednesday. A lot of good ideas. And of course, many of the libertarians and definitely all the progressives hated everything I had to say because I provided them with facts, and the progressives were very much interested in the feelings. They felt I was being mean. They felt that I wasn't being nice enough to illegal aliens. In fact, they didn't want to call them illegal. They'd call them migrants. They're not migrants. They're illegal aliens. They broke the law. They're illegally in America. They're criminals. But, you know, that's me being a bad guy saying, hey, they broke the law. That means they're a criminal. So they're an illegal alien. Oh, how dare you call them that? That's not nice. Doesn't have to be nice. It's factually correct. It is legally correct. That is the term. How they feel about it, I don't care. I didn't ask them to come to America. I don't care how they feel. So that was something else I wanted to mention there. So you may want to check out the show. If you think, for those on the left who think, Mike, you know, if we were to have a debate with you, well, every Wednesday, there is a progressive and a libertarian that take me on, that take on the issues and say, Mike, they either agree or disagree with me. You'd be surprised how often they agree with me. You'd be surprised what they agree with me on. You'd be very surprised. So let me see. We have talked so far. The only thing I really haven't talked about today is a trend that we are seeing across America. This really stupid idea that you will see that there are new gun laws that are going into effect. In Connecticut, today, October 1st, there were a slew of new gun laws that have just been put into place. And they're going to protect you. I want you to see what the laws are. They're going to ban just two of the laws. There are multiple laws, but two of the laws. One of the laws is you cannot openly show a firearm. Even if you have a concealed carry permit, you cannot show your firearm in public. You cannot carry a firearm openly in public. This is going to stop gangs from running around and shooting people. This is going to stop drug addicts from going around and shooting people. This is going to stop the deranged, crazy psychos from going around and shooting people because they can't carry a gun in public anymore. Right. They couldn't do that in the first place. They didn't care. They don't care. That's not going to protect you. If you're in Connecticut and you think this is going to protect you, you're an idiot. The second thing that is now a law in Connecticut and in force today, October 1st, is that you have safe storage. The laws about you, where you store your firearm, have been increased. Aren't you safe now? Because the crazy bipolar mental illness, the crazed individual doing a mass shooting, that's going to stop them. No, it's actually not going to stop them. The drug addict that's trying to break into your house or trying to mug you so that they can get another shot of heroin or fentanyl. Yeah, they're going to care about whether or not you have your gun locked up safely at your house. No, they don't care. They don't care at all. The extremist, the terrorist that wants to kill you because you don't believe in their religion, nor do you believe it the way they believe it, that terrorist, they're really concerned about how you store your gun in your home. So that's going to protect you. No, it's not. The gang that is having a fight with another gang over selling slaves and drugs, and you are in the crossfire, they all care about you and how you stored your gun in your home. No, they don't. So I think it's very clear that laws like this in Connecticut are simply there to allow the politicians to say, I did something, re-elect me. Don't think about it. Don't consider whether or not this is going to actually help you. Do not consider whether or not this is actually beneficial to anyone in the universe. Simply stop at, I did something, re-elect me. Because that's what they did in Connecticut. They think you're stupid in Connecticut. They think you're as dumb as Jamaal Bowman thinks people are in saying it was an accident. The fire alarm just went off. It's the same kind of stupidity. Oh yeah. The drug dealers, the crazy people, none of them care about these laws. I don't care. You could have your firearms in Fort Knox. That's not stopping the drug gangs. It's not stopping the crazy people. It's not stopping the criminals. They don't care. You're not safer. And every single time they pass these stupid laws, these I did something laws, they pass these and the level of crime does not go down. The number of people being shot does not go down. We've had the New York Safe Act. We've had red flag laws. We've had, Biden has passed how many gun control executive orders? We've had law after law after law. This is not new. They've been doing this for decades. It's not even like, they've only been doing this recently. They have been doing this same idea for my lifetime. That's half a century. And it doesn't work. It has never worked. And it never will work. Because telling you can't carry your firearm is leaving you defenseless. Women should be very concerned about that. They are telling women you can't defend yourself. You should be upset about that. They are telling people that you don't get to protect yourself from gangs and drug dealers and sex slavers and crazy people. You don't get to protect yourself. And you are the bad guy if you say you want to. If you want to defend yourself, if you want to protect yourself, if you're a woman who wants to protect herself from gangs and slavers and all the ills of the world, if you want to protect yourself from that, they think you're a bad person. They think you're the problem. Because obviously, if everyone put their gun in a safe, there would be no crime. Are you stupid? Because they seem to think you are. Hang on. I don't. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me because I think it's insulting. I think it's dangerous to women. I think it's dangerous to the poor. I think it's encouraging criminals left and right. Because every time they pass one of these stupid laws, the criminals go, oh, there's that much less of a chance to stop. Remember the Buffalo shooter? In New York State, one of the strongest states with gun restriction laws in the nation. They're violating, literally, they're fighting against the Supreme Court as we speak. And the Buffalo shooter, a nut job, a psycho, said the reason why he was going to be able to shoot people was because of the laws against law-abiding citizens. That these gun control laws were protecting the criminal. It guaranteed him that he would be able to get away with killing innocent people. We've heard the crazy people tell us directly, these laws aren't helping you. They're re-electing politicians and they're helping the bad guys, the criminals, the people who want to kill you. Hang on, there are some comments here. Let me see. Yeah, user has been banned. Good to see you there. Sorry, I can't go back on the prior comments, but yes, thank you for joining us. I'm happy to see that you're with us. It's really upsetting to me. It really, really is. And they think you're dumb enough to go, but they did something, so I must be safe. No, you're not. No, you're not. You may want to feel safe. That's a false feeling. It's a false impression. Has nothing to do with reality. Has no connection to any empirical fact whatsoever. It is absolutely subjective and it is absolutely wrong. You are empirically less safe. You are more in danger in Connecticut and New York State and many of these states. You're more in danger, but you can say, I feel better. It's not going to make the bullets stop hitting you anymore. It's really sad. Wow. Time has flown by. Look at that. It's already 2 hours and 40 minutes. At least I got my second screen up for a little while. Let me see here. What does that say? The criminals are safe. Well, yeah, the criminals are safe. Criminals, if you're a criminal or you're deranged, you're fantastic. You're doing great. Gangs have never been safer than they are today. Laws like you just saw in Connecticut, the laws that we see in New York State, in California, in Illinois, criminals are absolutely guaranteed that there should be almost no one shooting them except other criminals. Police, well, they've been defunding all the police. We know this for a fact. They've been defunding police for years. So there's less police to show up. It takes them longer to show up, if they show up at all, and there's fewer of them to deal with the problems. So it's not police. They're not afraid of that. They're not worried about someone carrying a gun. Like I said, the Buffalo shooter told you that directly. They know that law-abiding citizens have been neutered, had your balls clipped off. You can't do it. So you can't protect yourself because the government is forcing you, demonizing you for trying to protect yourself. So the only people who are left to be made safe, it's the criminals. No one's there to shoot them for trying to kill everyone, for trying to rob everyone. And of course, the politicians will go, oh my God, crime has risen. I don't know why. How could crime be rising even as we pass more and more laws against law-abiding citizens? And at the same time, we're also restricting your gun rights. How could crime possibly go higher? We're defunding the police, taking away your Second Amendment rights. I can't imagine why there would be more crime. Re-elect me so I can figure out the answer. That's the election. I mean, when I ran for Congress, I ran on the wrong thing. I wanted to get rid of the H-1B visas. I wanted to restrict government size. I wanted to cut the amount of spending in the government. I ran on the wrong issues. I should have just simply gone out there and said, hey, great, you know what I want to do? I want to make criminals safer. Vote for me. Which is the same thing as saying I want more gun control. It's the same thing as saying I want to defund the police. That would have probably gotten me elected. I did something. I could have voted. Literally, I could have run on. I did something, and I'd be elected forever. Dianne Feinstein, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they've been elected for decades. All because they did something. Was it effective? No. Was it efficient? No. Did it help anyone? Absolutely not. Other than, some of their donors pay for play. But the average person? Oh, of course that didn't help them. But when was the last time you saw Chuck Schumer actually out amongst the people without a camera crew taking pictures? When was the last time he actually went around? Nancy Pelosi, she doesn't go out and meet people. She's got interns to stock her refrigerator with ice cream. They don't care. They're not around you. AOC lives in a walled off security, an apartment building that's walled off and has private security. She drives around in SUVs, which are they're not electric, they're not gas efficient, in SUVs with armed guards. Yeah, that seems like what everybody does that, right? They're not connected to you. They're laughing in your face. They're laughing in your face, America. It's evil. It's evil. And I'm the bad guy. You're the bad guy for daring to ask a question as per the First Amendment. It is your right. It is an obligation of the government to allow you to say whatever the hell you want to say. And they don't like it. How dare you question their ability to get reelected because they did something? You never asked them to do something efficient. You never asked them to do anything effective. You just said, do something. So they did. They made themselves more powerful. Let's see. User has been banned says they care. Oh, they care about their pockets and nothing else. Yeah. A lot of them. A lot of them. I won't say all of them, but the majority. And the longer that they are in office, the longer they are there, the worse they behave. Every single time. Is that the light? Yep. Got a light going straight into the camera. So the longer they're there, the worse they are. And yes, I know, Dianne Feinstein died. Oh, it is the worst thing that has ever happened. I feel so bad. Shame. Look, and let me be honest. It is sad, Dianne Feinstein died. There were about 2,000, 3,000 people that died yesterday. There are about 2,000, 3,000 people who die every day in America. Dianne Feinstein happened to be someone who we know the name of. She was 90. She lived a full life. Okay, and she died. And that's sad. I feel bad for her family, her friends. I know that that's important to them. And I will not take away from that. I did not respect Dianne Feinstein during her life. I thought she did a miserable job. She was horrendous at what she did, and she was more concerned about power than she was about protecting the people. You don't have to agree with me. That's what I feel. To say anything different, that's what I said about her while she was alive. I say the same thing now that she's dead because I'm not a hypocrite. You don't have to like it. Dianne Feinstein's history, what she is known for, is not success. I'm not saying that she wasn't a good person. I'm sure she was wonderful to her friends. I'm sure she was great with her family. Fantastic. That's not how I knew her. I knew her as a politician, and she was a bad politician. She did bad things for America. And now we're about to get a new person to replace her. Probably Adam Schiff, who will do even worse. Not very sympathetic. Let's see. User has been banned says she lived a long, privileged life. Yes, she did. And I don't hold that against her. I mean, if you can live a long, privileged life, fantastic. Please do. I want you to. Live as long and live as privileged as you can. I have nothing against that. But if people want me to go running around screaming, oh, I feel so bad, it's so terrible. No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be fake. I'm not going to go, I suddenly am so weeping and upset about it. I'm not. I'm just not. I don't know. Maybe that's just mean of me. Maybe. I don't think it is. I think I'm being honest. She didn't do a good job. And the thing that really upsets me about Dianne Feinstein isn't that, at the end of the days, she could have gone home. She could have died in her home, in her bed, surrounded by her loved ones. She was being carted around like a puppet with someone's hand up her backside, being told what to say and who to say it to, how to vote, how to change her votes. She was a puppet on a bunch of strings up until the moment she died. On Thursday, she was taking a vote. We know for a fact, there is video. We've shown you the video on this show. It has been around the world of her Democrat colleagues, we'll call them that, telling her what to say, telling her how to vote, how to change her votes. We've seen this. They took away her dignity. They took away her ability to peacefully pass on with her family. Now, I don't know. Maybe Dianne Feinstein said, use me like a puppet until the day I die. That was part of her trade-off of being in office for over 4 decades. Maybe that was the deal. That she gets to stay in power and she'll just parrot anything they want until the moment she's dead. Maybe. I don't think that was the case. But that is what they did. And people, again, look at this this group of what we're told, empathetic people like AOC, like Joe Biden, like Kamala Harris, the Democratic Party, and look at how they treat not only their own, how they treat you. Different sets of rules, different kinds of punishments. They will use and abuse people until the moment they die, all to push their agenda. And you are not that priority. They will take money from you to give to people in the Ukraine. They will take money from you to give it to illegal aliens. They will kick you out of a hotel and take you away from food stamps to give an illegal alien a 3-star hotel room and $60,000 a year to live on. And that's a fact. And that's the compassionate people. Those are the people who are supposed to be for the people. They're the one who are standing up for the common man and woman. Let's see. Comment is that Hillary Clinton was talking about CTR or CFR, saying something along the lines of, it's good to be here at the CFR so we know what we need to do. Okay. Hey, so we got Giovanni Del Biccardi? Giovanni Del Biccardi. Okay. Sorry if I got that wrong. Says, found you due to the JRES shorts. Did not know you do live streams. Yes, we do. We've been doing it for well over 5 years now. Every Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for taking a moment to check us out, especially from the JRES break. John does a great job with the shorts, but I do longer form type of work. And we cover just about everything. Uses band, it's talking about the Council on Foreign Relations. So, yeah, for those who are seeing us, the streamers, I know a lot of people are watching the shorts, and that's just John taking some of the issues that I deal with long term, and he's just making it into 1 minute bite-sized chunks. But between this, I go on and I live stream on Friday nights with the Liberty First Foundation at 9 p.m. Wednesdays, I'm with Larry Sharp on the Sharp Way, talking about all these various issues. Literally a panel battle, you could call it a roundtable battle between me, a libertarian, and a progressive. And then every Sunday, we come on here as much as I can, as long as the systems will run, to be able to speak with you live every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I do appreciate everybody who does take a moment to check us out. And if you're wondering, we have there's I think about 1,800 videos that I have done over the years covering every subject you could possibly imagine. So just type away. You want to know more about gun control? We got dozens of videos about pretty much everything. Free speech, gun control, you name it. So if you're new to the channel, you're wondering, gee, but what does Mike think about, I don't know, abortion? Type it in. Whether you're on Rumble or YouTube, any of the search engines, type in. I guarantee you, I've got an opinion. I've been covering it for decades. And hope you find it interesting. Not that you have to agree with me. Something that, for the new people who are watching this for the first time, we never ask you to obey. We don't ask you to believe what I believe or to dogmatically accept everything I say as truth. No, we just want you to hear this and make your own decision. At the end of the show, I go back and I will be putting up links to every single article that I've been referring to throughout this entire discussion, so you can see it for yourself. We're asking you to think about these things in a way that isn't being approved by NBC and CNN and ABC and the New York Times. I want you to think about this on how it's affecting you. To actually think about this more longer than the politicians have, because they don't think about it at all. And then make up your own mind on what you think you should do about it. That's on you. Because we treat you like individuals. We respect you. You're an American, or you're from another country, might be from another country. You're an adult. You're intelligent. Here's the information. Here's what I conclude from it. Make up your own mind. And let's talk about it. I wish we could see more of that. I really do. So we got 4 more minutes before we've been on for 3 hours in a row, which is a little bit short for our show, but I think it's decent for today. We've talked about the second Republican debate. We've talked about Dianne Feinstein. We've talked about gun control in Connecticut. We've talked about Jamaal Bowman and his crimes and the lack of punishment that is being advised by people like AOC and the Progressive Caucus. We've talked about the shutdown. We've talked about overseas and the multiculturalism, its impact overseas and here in the United States. We've talked about Germany and France moving closer and closer with China and how that is negatively impacting U.S. pockets, inflation, how it's making the world less stable. We've covered a lot of ground in 3 hours with your comments. And the only thing that we ever ask for in every episode is we ask that you just like, share, and subscribe. That's it. Like, share, and subscribe. I mean, that's the most important things you could do. On YouTube, on Rumble, on BitChute, wherever you find us. Like, share, and subscribe because it matters. It helps us to reach more and more people around the world to have these conversations and hopefully to get better results. Because the results we're getting right now, they suck. And we all know that. That's a fact. And if you can, I know the economy is bad. I know how difficult things are. Trust me. I'm trying to get a heroin addict kicked out from squatting in my house so I can sell the house. I guarantee you, I know how it is. So, but if you can, join our Patreon. It's $1.50 per month. That number will never go up. We will never charge you more than $1.50 to be a Patreon. And we thank you and appreciate that. And if you want to instead, maybe you want to make a one-time payment. Maybe you want to donate $500. I don't know. Maybe you got money like that. That's fantastic. You can do that. You can do it through our PayPal. But we don't ask for any of that, really. That's extra. That's bonus. If you can, we appreciate it. But really, just like, share, and subscribe. That's all we ask for every show. Whether we're on for 3 hours or 6 hours, or whether it's my birthday and I do the 12-hour marathon, doesn't matter. And given the economy, the equipment, we will always be here as much as we can every Sunday and throughout the week to tell you about the issues that are affecting all of us and what are some of our options. I hope everyone has found this to be of interest. I thank you. I thank you for being my audience, for being here with me and having this conversation. I know you could be watching football. I know you could be doing anything. You could be spending, I don't know, $50 a month for Disney and Netflix and Hulu and get zero content. By the way, I do recommend, if you get the chance, see The Continental. It's on Peacock, which nobody watches, nobody knows about. But it's on Peacock. It's called The Continental. It's basically the John Wick world, and it's a prequel. It's got 2 episodes out, and it's actually very well done. God help me. Stop watching Ahsoka and punishing yourself. Watch The Continental and actually have an intelligent show to enjoy. That's just some entertainment news. But I do appreciate each and every one of you. I thank you for taking the time to be here with me. I know you could be doing so many other things, and I appreciate and thank you for being able to spend even a little time with me. I look forward to seeing your comments. If not live, then definitely after the fact. Please share this. Tell people. Tell me what they think too. And I look forward to seeing you next week.